So you can see what happens when you do all that preliminary work. You can see that one little polish place, and I must have sat on the polisher for 15 seconds to get that. So, and there's no riffles. It's almost a mirror finish. And that comes with the flat filing and then the flat sanding. We'll continue polishing a little bit, see how the rest of it comes out. Okay, we've gone about as far as we can with the big buffer, which would be this one over here, the big wheel. And we can't get quite down into this little stuff down in here in the corners and underneath the prong head here. So also underneath up here too, and some stuff in the back. Right in there where my thumbnail is and up a little higher. So we have to come in with a smaller wheel. And what we're going to do is come in with this little 3-inch or 2-inch wheel that we use here. And this is a brush. So it's going to do a little bit different job, but it will give it a pump. Another great wheel is the razor edge felt wheel. And that gets right into the little corners really easily. And gets out the scratches in a way that no other wheel can possibly do. Okay. Most of this piece is polished. There's still a few little places that they're going to need some help later on, but it's time to set the stone. Yeah, the back is looking really good too. It has a nice three-dimensional look to it. The polish is beautiful. Time to set the stone. Now it isn't set. The stone is still very loose, so it isn't exactly squared up. You can see I can move it around. But it looks really nice. Alright, it's time to set the stone. First thing we got to do, because this is a handmade prong head, is we have to adjust the each of the prongs to get it to fit the stone just right. And so just come in with the needle nose pliers and grab a prong and bend it over a little bit, spread it out. What we're just trying to do is bring everything into place so that when we start cutting the prongs, everything will fit. And notice now that the stone looks like it's touching everything nicely, but the prongs are a little bit off. This one needs to come this way a little bit. So we'll go ahead and move that. Spread it out. Looks like these two upper ones are just a little bit too close together too. Okay, now the upper ones are spread nicely, but they're a little too far away from the stone, so we've got to get them in closer. And instead of bending these all the way in, we're going to bring all of these other four this way a little bit, and then these to meet it, so that everything kind of matches in. Now the stone really has to sit up a little higher in order to be able to cut the grooves in the prong heads and the prongs themselves, and get that stone to slide in there so you can clamp it. Okay, the prongs are all touching, and you can see the stone is sitting way up off the top of that base. Now we're not going to have it sit there, but we want it that high so that we then know that the prongs are going to be close enough. Now we can go in and measure the prongs and go ahead and cut them. I see where the prongs are sitting right at the girdle of the stone. And we're going to want to carve out just a little bit of that prong there and all the way around at an exact level. So we've got the prong marked. I did a little pen mark right there, and that's where we'll start filing. Using a little 3/4 or 3-sided needle file, I come in and carefully, I mean oh so carefully, cut that first prong, making sure that I don't accidentally scratch the design. I mean, there's so many places to go wrong. Using a little 3/4 or three-sided needle file, I come in and carefully, I mean oh so carefully, cut that first prong, making sure that I don't accidentally scratch the design. I mean, there's so many places to go wrong. Don't get it too low. There we go. And that's a little bit low, so we're going to go ahead and bring it up a little bit. Oops. All right, we got ourselves a nice little groove. Look at that one prong head right there, and you see that little small groove right there. Now we've kind of started that with the three-corner file, and we're going to finish it later with a round file because the girdle on the stone is fairly thick. But let's go ahead and get the others positioned first. So the way that we find our positioning is with the good old calipers. And I come in, I've got the piece sitting on a flat surface, so I know that it's flat. And then I literally come in, notice how the bottom part of the caliper has a little extending arm to it. And when you open this up and close it, this opens up and closes. So I just go down to the surface of wherever my piece is sitting and make sure that I'm level, and go ahead and take a measurement. Then of course check it a couple of times because I don't want to make any mistakes here. And it looks like we're in pretty good shape. So now we just go around each prong, take a remeasure, and strike a line, and then go back and file it. Okay, it's about 15 minutes later, and we've got notches in every one of them, although rough notches indeed. But it's a good start. And everything is lined up, the height is correct. It's just that we've got to spread the notches out a little bit in order to fit the stone. We've taken a very fine rat tail file and gone in and filed each one of those grooves so we could get a nice round edge to it. Because if you'll notice, the girdle on the stone is a little wide, which is typical for these. And then actually it's good because that way the stone doesn't chip as easily. But it is a little bit wide, and so we've got to make a wide groove to catch the stone. So once I've gotten through that and filed out all of these to get a nice rounded look to it, now what I have to do is I have to go in and file from the center of the circle down a little bit in order to take away that little edge right there. And that's going to give me a place for the stone to sit. So we take a small half-round needle file and come in just below that edge and very carefully file that surface. And it doesn't have to go very far, but just a little bit. Just enough to reduce that edge so that there's a seat for the stone to sit on. That's probably good enough for that one. So since it's a little hard to see on the prongs themselves because they're so small, I did some sketches here. And this is a side view of the prong, and we came in with a triangle file and cut a notch out in the prong itself where the stone is going to go. And then after we cut that notch, which gives us a nice center point, we come in with a round file or a rat tail file and just round that out so that the stone itself can sit within that area. And then after that, because the stone literally goes down from here at the bottom, the bottom of the stone is at a different angle than the top. So we come in with a little half round file and just reduce this bottom edge just a little bit so that it's more of a kind of a curve rather than a half circle.